Good morning, traders. I'm Emily Bonney, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Monday, April 14th. We kick off a holiday-shortened trading week as investors await more earnings and trade talks today. On Friday, stocks rose to close out a roller coaster of a week. All three major indices notched gains. The Dow jumped 619 points, or more than 1.5%. The S&P 500 climbed 95 points, or 1.8%. The Nasdaq ended in the green by 337 points, or more than 2%. Bill, let's get into a new week with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Hi, yes, good morning, Emily. Hey, I'm seeing a lot of green on my screen. S&Ps are up 1.31%. I mean, it's a strong move higher. I mean, it's really due to the tariff exemptions that came out late Friday, late Friday night, and they were kind of discussed more on Sunday and the Sunday morning talk shows. But the White House has shown that they're sensitive to the markets, and they're kind of downplaying the tariffs, saying, oh, there's more sector-based tariffs to come, but they clearly have concern over the elevated percent of their tariffs that they put on, and the market's reaction. And the Trump administration said temporary tariff exemptions on tech products are they're going to give some temporary short-term relief to the sector. They're still subject to like 20% tariffs, but that's still a positive compared to where they were. And the Trump administration is expected to provide some clarity later today. We'll have to wait and see. I know Trump is meeting with the president of El Salvador today. I think that happens at 11 a.m. We'll wait word. The dollar remains weak. There is an ECB meeting going on later this week, and the ECB is expected to cut rates. So you're seeing a big divergence between interest rates between the U.S. and the ECB these days. Trade talks. We got trade talks going on scheduled this week with the EU and Japan. I believe the EU trade talks start today. But this morning, we're seeing some, positive action in tech, obviously, because of the pullback in the tariffs. And, Goldman good earnings report came out. So that's all positive. So yeah, I'm seeing a lot of green as a result. And, we're turning our attention over to Europe to see what's going on over there. And, the DAX is higher by 2.23%. That's 453 points. Seeing big gains in banks, tech, and pharma. That's all good to see. FTSE's up 135 points, or 1.7%. Financials and commodity-linked stocks are trading higher. France is up 2.03%, or 144 points. Positive trends going on in the financial and luxury sectors. That's nice to see. And then we're turning our attention over to Asia. And Asia saw gains across the board. We're looking at the Nikkei, which rallied 1.18%, or 396 points. Trade talks this week, there could be key to that export-driven economy. Hong Kong, their market rallied 502 points. That's 2.40%. And tech led the way higher. In Shanghai, in China, up 24 points, or 0.76%. Really, the leg higher due to the tariff announcement. The exemptions are applied to heavy manufactured items in China, including smartphones, computers, semiconductors, solar cells, and more. So that's all good. And then we're looking at oil this morning. Oil is trading high. We got WTI at $62.24 a barrel. Brent's at $65.53 a barrel. Waiting on that OPEC report this morning. There's OPEC monthly report is due out today, but that's all positive. And there was some indications that the U.S. and Iran held talks over the weekend that were said to be constructive. Now, this is the first talks between the two in years, so they were asking Iran to give up their nuclear ambitions, so they in return they won't. They'll probably lift some sanctions on Iranian oil. That would be a positive development. Oil prices probably would drop a little further because there'd be more oil on the market. But that's what I have for you in terms of a morning market update, Emily.
Trade talks and tariff news really kind of remains that big overarching headline for markets. But as we hear, there's other details underneath those headlines that are important to keep track of. And so we're going to do that throughout today's show and throughout the week. And we starting today, which feels like a much different start to last week, as you said, seeing a lot of green this morning. So let's get into some of the action here. We're going to start with earnings action, which will continue to pick up today and throughout the week. So Bill, give us a rundown of what is happening when it comes to earnings.
I'm going to start off with M&T Bank, ticker MTB, Michael Tom Boy. And listen, stocks trade lower by 1.23%. They missed by 8 cents. But Goldman, on the other hand, ticker GS, they beat by $1.85, and they did it on higher revenue. I mean, you look at Goldman, it's trading up 2.13%. And, that's only part of the story, because it traded as high as 515.55 this morning. It's now trading 504. So, there's still room for that stock to move. But Goldman had a good earnings report. And tomorrow morning, we got earnings coming out from Citigroup, ticker C. C as in Charlie. EPS is $1.84. Expected move is 7.09%. They got Bank of America, ticker BAC. Their EPS is 81 cents with the expected move of 6.68%. And Johnson & Johnson, ticker J&J, their EPS is $2.57. Expected move is 4.17% when they release tomorrow morning, Emily.
Keeping track of all of that action using your earnings alert. You also have an economic events alert. And really, underneath economic events, you are putting together a number of pieces of this puzzle, including economic reports, Fed speak, and then all of these headlines that are coming around, these geopolitical headlines, especially when it comes to trade and tariffs. But let's dive into the details when it comes to reports and Fed speak on this Monday. Bill, give us a look at what we should be watching when it comes to economic events.
7 a.m. we're supposed to be getting the OPEC monthly report. 11 a.m. we're going to get consumer inflation expectations. A lot of Fed speak. I mean, at noon, Richmond Fed Bank President Thomas Parkin. At 1, Fed Governor Christopher Waller. At 6 p.m., we're going to hear from Richmond Fed Bank President Thomas Parkin again. And then at 7:40 p.m., Atlanta Fed Bank President Raphael Bostic is scheduled to speak. Now, I do want to point out, Jerome Powell is also scheduled to speak later this week, and he could provide some interesting comments. That's one that the market will always be paying attention to. But it's really the trade and tariff issues remain the key factors for the market. So we'll be paying attention to that. But there's a lot of good reports coming out this week. I mean, you get the Philadelphia Fed surveys, you get the New York Empire State manufacturing data coming out, you got business inventories, retail sales, and more, all set for release this weekend.
And you're keeping track of all of that using a number of alerts. It's a lot of data and information to watch, and you're able to create buckets for this information to be able to follow it quickly. And speaking of buckets of information, you also look at other types of news and headlines each and every morning, things like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news, other catalysts. You also look at your stocks group together, like your Dow stocks and your FANG stocks. So Bill, what else do you see is possibly moving the markets today?
I'm just doing a quick data check. I'm looking at my Dow stocks. I got 27 higher, 3 lower. I'm looking at my FANG stocks. They're all showing gains of more than 1%, so that's all positive. You look at Apple. They're the big story this morning as the stock is up over 6%. Tax relief on the cell phones. It's a big boost to Apple. That's the key story. This morning. Then you look over something like Google, which is up 1.22% this morning. Google and NVIDIA are said to be early backers in Safe Superintelligent, which is a startup that's owned and operated by OpenAI's co-founder and former chief scientist. So that's an interesting one to me. Meta Platforms, ticker META. Remember, their FTC trial is scheduled to start this week. Got to be cautious with Meta ahead of that trial. In terms of Dow Jones 30 stocks, Goldman Sachs, I mean, trading revenue surged at Goldman this past quarter. And I remember I built a news model for them years ago that they said was really super active and worked very well for them in when the market got volatile like this. And I bet it's still being used to this day. Microsoft trading higher, shifting signals on trade tariffs is fueling trade uncertainty. But for today, it's positive. And you got Microsoft up 0.63% this morning. In terms of merger news, International Paper, ticker IP, India Paul, they're in talks to sell 5 European box plants. Intel, ticker INTC, they're near an agreement to sell Altera to Silver Lake Management. That could be something. In terms of guidance news, Brookdale Senior Living, that's ticker BKD, Boy Kilo David. They see Q1 adjusted EBITDA higher than anticipated. I got to wait on that one, but I think that looks good. In terms of shareholders meetings later today, Otter Tail at 10 a.m. They're having a shareholders meeting, and HP they're having a shareholders meeting at 2 p.m. And Goodyear Tire ticker GT they're having a shareholders meeting at 4:30 p.m. So we got some good shareholder announcements coming up. In terms of buybacks, Goldman Sachs ticker GS they approved a 40 billion share buyback program. Nice. In terms of catalyst calls, Citibank cut 3M's price target and opened up a negative short-term view position on the stock. I'm concerned, but I do think 3M was trading a little lofty, so I'm not unhappy at the level of 130 to 136. I think that's a good price for the stock. And then Citi also they added Crinetics, CYTK, Charlie Yellow, Tom Kilo, and HII Henry India to the firm's North American focus list this morning. These two stocks are replacing Coca-Cola ticker KO and the ICE exchange ticker ICE. Interesting. And then that's what I have for you in terms of news hitting the tape this morning, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. We've now made it to that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, what do you have for us to start this week?
I'll go with Intel, ticker INTC, India Nancy Tom Charlie. I mean, the fact is that this news story about them selling the Altera unit, that would be positive for the stock. So that would give a cash infusion to the company, which is needed. So I mean, and everybody would be positive on a deal. So you look at Friday's call volume. 357,000 calls traded to 192,000 puts. That's positive. And open interest, 3.5 million to 2.1 million on the put side. That's also positive. And the brokers are neutral on the stock because let's face it, Intel today is not Intel of yesterday. But they would consider a sale positive. So I do like it for that reason because the deal could happen. The deal supposedly happened with Silver Lake Partners, and that's a real firm. So yeah, I do like it. I want to get in $20 to $20.15. But I do think this would be a positive development for Intel, and I do think we could see some gains in that stock ticker INTC, India Nancy Tom Charlie today, Emily.
Intel it is, sort of playing the news cycle there, which is something you did on Friday with Friday's pick of the day. In just a moment, we will do a recap on that. But first, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our Hot Off the Press segment. Bill, take it away.
Okay, what do we see here? Giant Tiger Stores partners with DoorDash and Uber Eats. DASH. Okay. Edward Life Sciences receives CE mark for Sapien M3 EW, ticker EW. TAP, Tom Applepaul, Molson, Coors, CEO, Gavin Hattersky, he's going to be retiring. Geo Group, ticker GEO, their surveillance tech is aiding Trump's deportation efforts. Pfizer, ticker PFE, they're discontinuing the development of one of their weight loss drugs, PFE, Paul Frank Edwards. Let's see, what else do we got here? Amgen, Sandoz files an antitrust lawsuit against Amgen this morning over its market dominance in a drug. Best Buy, ticker BBY, Boy Yellow, their shares are rallying as the Trump administration's tariff exemptions come into view. That's all I'm seeing this morning, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we dive into Monday and another week of trading, let's do a check-in on Friday's pick of the day, which was Novo Nordisk. Now, you just gave us that piece of news that Pfizer has a setback in that new weight loss drug, and the stock is falling. And interestingly, in opposition, Novo Nordisk is rising this morning, sort of on that news, because they do have a competing drug, and that is boosting the stock this morning. Off of that negative news for Pfizer. You were trading this one Friday. I do see it up today. How did your call work it out?
Worked out well. I mean, the stock opened up at $63.73, and then it fell down to $63.23. and now I was saying 63.50, and so it went beneath that, but then it ran up and hit a high of 64.72, which obviously beats the 1% goal. So you're done, you walk away. But you look at the stock this morning, it traded as high as $67.45. It's currently trading 66.60. But I mean, listen, those EU trade talks, they're coming today. You get the bad news on Pfizer, so it's all good news for Novo Nordisk, this ticker NVO. It was a winner on Friday. Very happy, Emily. Very happy. NVO.
Solid win there, Bill, and we will check in with you tomorrow about today's Intel pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here tomorrow with NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Bonney, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.